Baruch Fleischman here, back at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel with Parshas Amor. We're on page Tov Zion, as you can see. And yesterday we went through the idea that when a person is about to die, lying on his deathbed, comes before him things that no one else can see. He sees three malachim stand before him. These are malachim of din. And they're there to decide and to be judged this person's soul, to see whether or not it is coming back to its creator, the gay who placed it in that body, in the same condition that it was in when it, in other words, pure, a part of godliness itself, or whether or not it became dirty. I'm looking for the right word for tinuf. It became dirty as a result of his behavior in this world. So now we're over here and we're still in the same place, and the Zohar says like this. The person is lying on his deathbed. Just like we said, he has these three angels standing before him, and Zakef Eino V'chame L'malach HaMavis. So he lifts up his eyes, and he sees the Malach HaMavis Koim Kameh that is standing in front of him. B'saifa Shalifa B'dei, and he has an unsheathed sword in his hand. Kaster B'katrim, and he cuts the ties, B'kumata Dahahu Barnash, which keep the person alive in this world. We'll see what the Matuk Medevash says this means. There is nothing harder for a person's nefesh at this point than this, to cut the ties that he has with the physical world. That's like in other words, like when the soul of the person is about to leave his body. But a person doesn't die until he sees the Shekhinah. So first he has to see the Shekhinah. So because of the tremendous, once a person sees the Shekhinah, the desire to be by the Shekhinah and be joined with the Shekhinah is tremendous, and as a result of that, it causes the person's nefesh, nafkas goes out, l'kabla the Shekhinah, to be by the Shekhinah. Basta the nafka, now the soul is gone. Man ihu nafsha, the is the vekababa, the is kabel begufa. So he says, man ihu nafsha, what is this soul? The is dab gaba, that is now clinging to the Shekhinah, the tis kabel begufa, and it corresponds to the lack of the fact the person has no body. The whole ukmuchul lahanimili, this has been talked about before. So let's look a little bit at the Matuk Medevash, see what he says. Zokef Einav V'chamed L'malach HaMavis, Zokef as Einav, he lifted up his eyes, V'roas as a Malach HaMavis, only the Father that he sees the Malach HaMavis. V'charbo Shalufa B'yado, and he has an unsheathed sword in his hand. Umeshaver, he breaks, Umefarek, and it separates. B'kesher Shal Dal Yisod is Olam, the tie that the person has to the four foundations of the world. This is an interesting idea, really, to be developed in other places, because the four ties, which you also see these in astrology, in Jewish astrology, they are air, water, fire, and earth. Those three things are the physicality of the world in which we live in, when they're no longer a part of our bodies, and we have other places we talk about how they affect your body and which part is which. He says, but those he breaks, the Malach HaMavis breaks that tie. Vein davar kosher l'nefesh, and there's nothing harder for the soul, because the yisur of all the pain that his soul figures in this world, sheyi lo kol yamav, that a person has in his whole life. Come up in the guf, like the separation of the nefesh from the body. He says, "V'ein adam meis ad shiroa es hashchina." So now the next part is, and let's read those words. Let's see, ubarnash lo mis ad dechamed hashchina. The person doesn't die before he dies. He sees the Shechina. V'ein adam meis, the person does not ad shiroa es hashchina, until he sees the Shechina. Umigo sigius to uvdech the nafshe b'shkinta nafkas. Maskele kubla. Machmas rov chukas nefesh, because the nefesh is an aspect of the Shekhinah. It's its own self. It wants to come back to its root. Yotzim in a guf connected. So therefore, the nefesh then leaves the body to be by the Shekhinah. So he said, Achar shahanefesh yatzim in a gufta. Now, after the nefesh goes out from the body, mi hi ha nefesh atizga the his davik. But what kind of nefesh is zoicha to be able to cling to the Shechina, l'hiskaba b'tocha, and be received inside the Shechina herself? So exactly the qualities of that nefesh have to be explained other places. So let's go over here and let's see this next part. So now we're learning the secrets of Jewish rituals. He says, Basa the nafkal nafshem in gufa. So now the nefesh is gone from the body. The four, let's say, physical elements of air, fire, earth, and water. These are now gone. The body's dead. V'yishtaira gufa below rucha. There is no breath. There is no spirit left in the body. It's a hunk of meat. Also, the mishbag le below kivurtav. Kivurasa is forbidden to leave it like that without burying it. Dechse, because it is written, lo salin nivlaso ada eitz. So he has a pasuk there where we say the person who was killed by Beis Din, and afterward his body is hung as a reminder, or I guess something like that. So he said because it certainly should be buried on that very self-same day. Begin the mesa the yishtayr kaf dal shaul. So if a person dies and he remains in this world without being put in the ground, 24 hours. And what's the thing about 24 hours? The inu yomim v'layla below kivurasa, that is a day and a night without being buried. Yachiv chalishasa b'shafoedereticho. This actually causes a weakness to come into all the limbs of the upper worlds. Uma'akev avidid vidita the kucher bericho the milamevet. So, and he stops the work of a Kodesh Baruch Hu from which means the flow of bracha coming down to us. The efshir the kucher bericho, because it's possible that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gazer haleh begin the meicha begegula achra, because maybe Hashem Baruch sees that. Remember, we're saying over here that at the moment that a person dies, the tie to the physical world is cut from him by the Malach HaMavos. And so now we're trying to think, well, what about if that soul is really roi to cling to the Shechina or not? Perhaps this is a person that has to come back in a Gilgul. Miyad b'haku yomad ispatar, and that would happen immediately when the person left this world. And the reason why is to do something good for that soul. Because but the whole time that body is not buried, his neshama does not go back up to the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And he can't, still is held back from going into another body. And we're talking about the soul, the spirituality, the soul of that person. The lo yahava l'nishbasach begufa achra, because now the soul doesn't have another body to go into, until finally he is buried. A question on this is really, what does burial do for the body, or for the soul, that allows it, if it has to go into a Gilgul, to get to that point? So we'll stop here. This is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. We'll look tomorrow, with God willing, at the Matok Midrash.